What's up, Tea Tribe? This is Alyssa Amoroso, aka Publicity, who is ready to spill the tea. Because this is Tea with Publicity. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tea with Publicity. I am your host, Alyssa Amoroso, and it is another glorious Tuesday. Well, for me, it's Monday, but pretty soon it will be Tuesday, and it is time to spill some tea. I'm going to do a shorter life update this week because there's not much to update, and I want to focus on the upfront of the episode, talking about my career journey, how I got started, where I am now, how I got my job at Barstool, because I have a lot of questions, and a lot of the OGs that have been following me forever know some of this, but a lot of you are new, and a lot of you have a lot of questions, how I got to Barstool, who I am, and all of that. So Mackenzie's here with me.
Hi.
Hey. And she is going to ask me some of the questions that you guys wrote in. And then we will jump into my interview with Fran from my office, who's a coworker, and talk a little bit about her career journey because I find it to be absolutely fascinating and I'm really excited to learn more. So I want to jump straight into what I've been up to. So I was away this weekend and it's been a while since I've taken a trip or done anything. Obviously, it's been probably about a year since I've traveled, and it was just really nice. Obviously, still did outdoor dinners, stuff like that. But it was just nice to get away a little bit and, see a little bit of different scenery. I'm getting a little sick of New York at this point. I don't have many takeaways other than the fact that I just had so many laughs, which just my soul needed. But the one thing that I did want to share with you guys, which is funny, and it kind of does tie into career, is that there's something I noticed, and it's as you get older, you could afford more expensive alcohol. So I only exclusively drink bougie shit now because I'm 30,
right?
And I put in the freaking work.
You deserve it at this point.
I deserve it. I've drank the Burnett's and the Pop-Off,
Bacardi, Svedka.
Yeah, I've done it all. So now I'm straight Casamigos Blanco or Casamigos Rum Pasada and Veuve when I'm drinking champagne, and nice ass brands. And me and my friends were saying this weekend, we went to really nice bougie dinners and we spent a shit ton of money on alcohol, and we all felt glorious the next day.
Yeah.
A little hungover just from being tired, but
right.
No
not
sick,
from the alcohol.
Not alcohol sick at all. And I was this is one of those things where you get older and all of a sudden you're wow, I could afford more expensive alcohol and it actually doesn't make me throw up.
Right. Yeah. It's nice.
It is
refreshing.
So nice. It is so nice. So that is the one thing about growing up that I really tend to enjoy. And like I said, as you make more money, you start spending more money on alcohol. So that kind of gets me to my career journey because honestly, I wasn't always able to afford Casamigos. I, really had to put in the work. So we will get into my career questions. You guys sent them in. And what I kind of like about this is normally when I talk about my career, I start from this was my first internship to current day. And these were more just pointed, direct questions, not so much my resume. So I feel we can kind of just chat and I can give you guys some advice. And I'm going to have Mackenzie ask them to me. And I tried my best to put what you guys wrote in some kind of chronological order so it doesn't feel totally like I'm jumping around. So Mackenzie, wanna ask me my listener questions?
Yes, of course. So the first one is, what did you major in college and what did you do right after you graduated?
So I majored in media studies and communications with a minor in fashion marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's funny because I applied to college just being media studies sounds fine.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do something creative. At first, I thought maybe I wanted to be a graphic designer, but I don't really know why I chose media studies and communication. I think I just thought it was a good umbrella, overarching umbrella for
a lot of different opportunities.
Exactly. And I am such a slacker back then with school.
Oh, yeah.
That like I didn't want to go into business because I didn't want to work hard.
Right. Yeah.
So that's like the thing that everyone does. Like they pick business because it could apply to anything.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So I did media studies, and actually that was one of the things that I kind of just blindly chose that actually wound up really being smart because it's exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So within the media studies and communications major, I took a lot of film editing, public relations, media classes. And that's kind of what taught me how to start like editing video and audio.
Yeah.
It gave me the tools. I wasn't like concentrated in that, but it at least helped me later in life.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those things overlap, so it's good to know it no matter what you're doing. Like
Exactly.
It's good to know video editing in this industry, even if you're the talent or a PR person or whatever it is.
Exactly. Like I didn't even realize those were skills I was going to need.
Right, yeah.
But I liked my major because it was super creative. Like my friends would be studying, writing essays and doing written exams, and my projects would be like PowerPoints and
yeah.
like editing to get like I would have to go like film the basketball team and then like slice it together.
Yes, yeah.
You know, because you probably did very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was like the same exact thing. Even now, both my roommates, like one is in marketing and the other one's in finance, and like when we work from home, it's like I'm editing just the most random videos for Barstool, and they're on their little Excel sheets like doing real work.
My friends used to laugh at me. They were like, you are a joke, because my work was just so much easier, but in a different way, because if it's not your skill set, that's not easy to you.
Right.
But
it's like creative mind.
Exactly.
Aspect,
yeah. So then my minor, fashion marketing, was because I used to think I wanted to go into fashion, but I'm actually really thankful that I did fashion marketing because I got the business classes under that minor. So I took like intro to marketing and business 101 and all of those things. And I actually feel like I did take away a lot from that being my minor. The merchandising classes about like textiles and stuff, I took absolutely nothing away from because again, I like don't really pay attention in class. I'm just going to be transparent.
Yeah.
I do the bare minimum to get by when it comes to school because I'm much more of like a hands-on person. Like I took art classes and I loved those and I liked the video editing. I'm just more better suited for those types of classes. So that is what I majored in. And then what I did right when I graduated college was get a job in PR. I graduated on a Friday. I started work the following Monday.
Oh my God.
I know. It was really insane. I always have put a lot of pressure on myself with work. And I was one of those people that I knew at this point, because I had about 8 internships in college, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I knew at this point that I wanted to go into PR and or fashion PR, whatever it is. And I knew that unlike finance, where you get a job 6 months before you graduate college, you're guaranteed a job.
Yeah.
I knew I needed experience under my belt if I wanted to get a job.
Yeah.
And it just so turned out that a position was open. I applied. I got it. It was an assistant role, a lifestyle assistant role. So I worked mostly on hospitality clients, like restaurants, and then events. Yeah. So it was very like celeb and press heavy.
The next question is, what was your first job and salary after college?
So I guess I kind of just described what the job was. It was a joke. I made $28,000. It was absolutely disgusting and despicable because I was working.
Was it in New York City?
Yeah, I was in New York. I was working probably 12-hour days. I was getting paid way too low. When I graduated, I feel like it was a few years after the recession, so people were naturally making a little bit less, but $28,000 was really unheard of, especially in New York City.
Yeah.
The minimum usually for entry level is at least $35,000. They were completely taking advantage of me, and I let them because I was kind of at that point in my life where a lot of my friends didn't have jobs right away. It took them about 6 months to a year to get a job.
Yeah.
So I was like, at least I'm not making a lot, but I could put in the work.
Right.
And then in 6 months to a year, when they're starting their first job, I'll be moving on to my second.
Right. And you already have all that experience too under your belt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't suggest taking a salary that's so low. But at the time, I was fortunate enough that I had the support of my parents. They weren't by any means funding my lifestyle, but they were helping me a tad, which again, super fortunate for.
Yeah, definitely. And then how much influence can having inside connections benefit you?
I think it could benefit people a lot. I personally never really had inside connections.
Yeah.
I don't think you need inside connections to be successful. Do they help? Absolutely. But my first job that I got, I just applied because I saw the job posting. It turned out I did actually know someone that worked there, but I didn't realize that until after I had already gotten the interview. So that was just kind of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
My second job, same thing, got myself. My fourth, I had 4 PR jobs, guys. All of those I got on my own. My fourth job, which was my final PR job before I decided to quit to become an influencer full time, I had just been consistently emailing them for like 3 years before I actually got the job. And that was completely just me keeping in touch with HR, me following up, and absolutely no outside influence. So I think, does it help? Yes. Do you need it? No. You need persistence. You need drive, work ethic, and you need to be kind and stay on top of people and perseverance.
And then obviously you were saying your first job wasn't as much as you would have wanted probably. But when did you feel financially confident enough to become an influencer full time?
So when I was at that fourth PR job, I was nearing 100,000 followers on Instagram. And at that point in time, I was finally making enough money. I remember I had a $10,000 partnership, and I was so excited. That was the most money I'd ever made on an influencer campaign. And I was like, okay, I'm going to save this plus like the $10K that I already have saved, and I will quit my job with $20,000 in my savings. And I was able to save my influencer money because I had a full-time salary from working in PR, since I was an influencer for 2.5 years while I was also working in PR. And guys, I'm not just talking about like money and numbers to be like, oh, I made $10,000. I'm talking about it because I think it's really helpful for people to conceptualize. And I don't think enough women talk about money.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why I'm saying this. And also, like, I really don't think having $20,000 saved to go out and do this on my own is even, a lot of people would want more money, but I'm a risk taker. And for me, it was such a big accomplishment to even have saved that money, because I started out making, that was my salary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I started out 3-4 years prior making that much, and now I saved a lot because I was able to save my influencer money. And I didn't save all of my influencer money. I spent a lot of it, which now looking back, I should have saved all of it. But you live and you learn. And I quit my job when I reached 100,000 followers, had $20,000 in my bank account as a cushion. And then I was scrappy as hell for the next 2 years, making really poor financial decisions, honestly, not realizing that, you know, when you're a freelancer, independent contractor, you're not getting taxes taken out. So you need to save 20 to 30% of every single paycheck. And I was saving some, but then I was spending a lot because I was making a lot. And then when it came time to pay taxes, I owed, and I dug into that savings number so deeply that I was in a place where I was like, I might need to go back to work. I really screwed myself over. And it was like a really big learning moment for me that I shouldn't be buying $2,000 YSL bags when I owe taxes. So
exactly.
Learn from my mistakes, guys. I always felt financially confident because I knew that worst case scenario, my parents lived 30 minutes away from the city, and if I had to move home, I could. And it's not that they were financially helping me at all at this point, but I knew I had a roof over my head should I need to break my lease or whatever.
Just in case.
So I always had that backup, but a lot of people don't, and especially if you're moving to New York and your parents don't live 30 minutes away.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So just make sure you save a lot of money and take into account things like taxes and medical bills and things that pop up, because when you are an independent contractor, you're also paying your own insurance out of pocket, which was $600 a month.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's just so freaking
There's so
crazy.
much to think about, yeah. And then when you made that transition to be an influencer, when did you know that this was kind of like your time to change into that career?
I never shy away from change. And that's with anything. And sometimes it actually kind of scares me about myself, because I am like, am I going to get sick of my husband? Am I going to get sick of the town that I live in?
Right, yeah.
Because I like change so much. It does scare me. I think I'm never like happy with reaching the next step, which freaks me out a little bit. I think I made change so much. I had 4 PR jobs in 5 years. I became an influencer. I launched a podcast. I started selling my own merch. I quit my job in PR, did the influencer thing full time, then pitched Barstool, then came here. Like, I've done so much. And I think the question is, when did you know it was time for change? I always think it's time for change. So like, I'm kind of a bad person to ask because I am like an opportunity seeker.
Like always wanting something new.
Yes. And I always want to reinvent the wheel. Like, I am innately a marketer. I can't even explain it. Like, I pitched myself to get into college. Like, before I was a publicist, I was a publicist. Like, I am so innately this person that I almost don't know different. In regards to making career transitions, my advice is always to go for it. Like, this is kind of heavy-handed, but I sometimes lose respect when people are miserable in their job and it's been 10 years and they've done nothing to switch it. It's like, what are you scared of? It's a freaking job. So you get another one. Yeah. I don't understand.
Just figure it out.
We have one life. Like, switch jobs. What's the problem? So I don't know. I'm kind of bad to ask that question to because I'm just like, change? I love it.
Yeah. You always want to change. And then this one is like not career related, sort of. I don't know. But it says, can you touch on overcoming imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is when you kind of feel like you don't recognize like the success or like who you are in your role. So like, I definitely deal with this a lot. Like, I wanted this job so bad. I'm like, Barstool's so amazing. It's so cool. It'd be so great. And now that I have it, I feel like, who, me? Like, it's kind of...
I feel that way too. And I'm just like an editor or producer.
It's a weird thing, imposter syndrome, or you're out and someone recognizes you and you're like, you listen to me?
Right.
And it's not being humble. It's like a genuine confusion. Someone messaged me actually yesterday saying this amazing, kind, generous thing, being like, you are doing something that no other podcast is doing and blah, blah, blah. Like, just singing my praises, being so kind. And I just wrote back and I was like, thank you so much. Like, sometimes I feel like no one's listening.
Yeah.
And I know that people are, and I see the numbers, but you feel like you're just talking into a mic to yourself. And like, you can't conceptualize the fact that you own, like, you have this opportunity.
Yeah.
So for overcoming it, I think it's just being grateful and reminding yourself, like I sometimes have to give myself a pep talk. And my mom gave it to me recently where she was like, I was like being insecure about something. And she was like, you did this, you pitched it, you got the job. Like, she's like, be proud of yourself. And sometimes you have to remind yourself like, oh, wow, I have a cool job.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, right. I know. I think it's too like knowing the people around you. If there are people in your life that are reminding you of that, like, those are good people to have because they know your worth and they know your success. And like, sometimes you have to be reminded of that.
That's so true.
So it's like good to have those people. Like, my mom says that to me all the time too. And then pivoting back to working for yourself and on your own brand to partnering with a network. Like, how did you kind of start that?
So I never thought I'd work for someone else a day in my life. I absolutely love being an entrepreneur, although it comes with a lot of stress. I'd say the 2 to 3 years that I was an entrepreneur were like the best but the worst of my life. Like, put on weight, stopped dating, became crazy. Like, I don't know, so much anxiety. It was really challenging, but at the same time, I love working for myself. So I never really thought I would work for a network, but I, again, am an opportunity seeker, and I always had wanted to pitch Barstool because I really liked the network that they created, and they have a reputation. Obviously, I think a lot of that is false. But basically, what happened for me was I was listening to Call Her Daddy. I was listening to Chicks in the Office. I was listening to Token CEO, a lot of the female podcasts on the network. And I loved them. I'm fans of all of them. And I was like, these girls I love listening to and I respect them, but they don't look like me, or they don't do the same things I do, because it could just be an age thing even. Like, they're younger than me. They're older than me. Like, it could be something so small.
Yeah.
And or they have boyfriends and I'm single,
Yeah.
you know, something like a little like that. And I was like, you know what? They don't really have, like, everyone's kind of in relationships. I was like, there's no one that's like single, 30s, relatable, just like talking about shit that women go through. So I knew that there was a unique opportunity for me to work with Barstool. And I think this kind of, now I'm kind of getting into some of the other questions where I see on my list that they asked me how I pitched Barstool. So I'll just kind of combine the two. But I think for me, it was easy to pivot because it was something that I was passionate about. And I was feeling not as inspired with my old podcast. My old podcast was mainly just about pop culture. And I was starting to feel, I think when the pandemic hit, like I was just sitting talking about vapid celebrity stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, this has no purpose. These aren't the conversations I'm having with my friends. What I'm talking to my friends about is journaling and meditating and manifesting and losing weight and boyfriends and girlfriends and body image and all of these things. And I felt like there was a place for it on the network. And I reached out via DM to Dave. I pitched him, and it was strategic, like I do with anything in life. It was short, sweet. I called out a flaw in his business. I said, you have an opportunity. I think I could help you reach it. He wrote back. He said, great intro. Let's meet. Next week, I'm in the office meeting with him and Erica. I actually have the footage because I vlogged this entire experience and I never posted it. So in my vlog that's going to go live this week, I actually have all the behind the scenes of me coming in for my interviews and stuff, which will be cool. And then 2 months later, my contract was signed, and then I started at Barstool. So it's crazy. It doesn't really feel like I'm not working for myself because I'm basically employed by Barstool, but I'm operating still as an entrepreneur. Like I have full creative control over my show, full creative over my merch, full creative over my vlogs, anything that I put out, like it's me, just me. I don't feel that loss. If someone was trying to control my brand, then I would feel very differently, and I probably wouldn't agree to that.
Right. Yeah, of course. And then since working at here, has it been different than you actually thought it would be? Or what kind of did you think like the vibe would be like when you started?
I don't really know what I thought it would be like. I feel as though it's similar to what I thought in terms of like the recording and the resources. And I had a feeling it would be like that. I didn't know what it would be like going back into an office, which was interesting for me, but it's like riding a bike. It's like I've been in an office before and now I'm just back in it. Right. I like that no one's checking in on me and I have a lot of creative control and no one's like, you're not at your desk. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, I could do what I want when I want. It's interesting. It's funny. I think the office is more like bro-y than I thought in terms of just like the aesthetic, like the way it looks, like there's like armchair couches and
it's like a free-for-all,
there's like piles of clothes and
everywhere,
like it looks like a boy's room.
Yes, exactly.
Like I don't like that part,
messy,
maybe. It's like kind of similar to what I thought. I kind of went into it with no expectations. I'm at this point in my life where I'm kind of just like rolling with it. Like if I'm here for 10 years, I'm here for 10 years.
Right.
If I'm here for 10 weeks, I'm here. Like I'm just trying to be like, this is the opportunity. I'm grateful and I'm going to work my ass off to make the podcast successful. And I'm just trying not to have like expectations in a way.
So it's not like brought down almost.
Yeah. So I'm just realistic about what I'm doing here because they did take a risk bringing me on the network that mostly is men.
Yeah.
So it's like, are people going to resonate with it? Are they not? So I'm just like, I'm just doing a different thing, trying to pave my own path. And I'm just happy to be here.
Right. And like make it your own. So going kind of towards the podcast, the show, what was your creative and planning process for the pre and post like launch of your show when it first started?
So I put a lot of thought into the show, the segments, what I wanted it to sound like, who I wanted to come on the show. And I think what I landed on was I'm solely responsible for coming up with the segments. So the intro, the interview, the spill the tea, the Ask Alyssa, like that's all me. Even the name, my old podcast was the Publicity Podcast. I always had spill the tea with publicity. That was always kind of my thing, publicity. But I wanted to change the name, so I made it Tea with Publicity, which I think has a really nice ring to it.
Yeah.
I really thought through these things, and I thought about the podcasts that I like listening to, and what I like listening to is women that I find are going through similar life stages as me, and I like that they're honest, and I like that they're vulnerable, and I like interesting conversations, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. So my process was just really thinking long and hard about, it's weird, like I made myself the consumer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I like?
Especially because your audience is probably similar to you anyway.
Exactly.
So it's the perfect kind of like comparison.
Yeah, and I just wanted to be myself. I said that going into this whole thing. I was like, I'm going to be myself. I said that when I went into my interview with Erica and Dave. Like, I was like, I'm going to be myself, and if they don't like me, then it's not meant to be, because I can't be someone I'm not. Right. And in terms of pre-launch, I was really eager to announce that I was working here, and that was more so just like an announcement photo on Instagram to announce the partnership. And I did vlog, like I said, my process, which will be coming out this week, so stay tuned for that, and make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube if you're not. And then for post-launch, I mean, it's just utilizing TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, every single marketing tool that I have available, putting out video clips, having my guests promote it. I've gotten offered to have some really, really, really big guests on with millions of followers, and I've declined them. For me, it's about having people on that I think have a point of view and something to say, versus having someone on with a really, really big following that's going to bore you guys to death. So I'm just trying to have on people that I think are cool, and hope that you think that they're cool. And if they give me some new listeners that way, great. If not, I'm out here hustling on my own, just trying to get by. So thank you guys for everyone that's recommended the podcast to a friend, to a family member. It really helps. All the ratings, all the reviews. I read my DMs. Like, I'm just so grateful for you guys. Okay, so that was the last question, but I did just want to remind you guys that it is March. The greatest time of the year has begun. It is March Madness here at the office, and we are basically betting on Bitcoin. I unfortunately am already out of the running, so I'm about $60,000 less. No, well, I guess I never had the money to begin with, but I had the opportunity to win. Yeah. No, just slipped through my fingers. So while you're watching the games this month, keep the positive vibes going. With every hoodie and tee, go to store.barstoolsports.com to shop all the various sayings to help you stay calm, think sharp, and don't panic. And while you're there, check out my merch. So it is store.barstoolsports.com to get your merch. Hey guys, I am here with Fran Mariano. Hey Fran.
Hi.
Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me.
You ready to spill some tea?
I am. I'm excited.
I feel like I haven't even had a chance to like talk to you much in the office, so I'm excited to get to know you more on the pod.
I know. Well, I feel like with your desk switch situation, now like your back is to us, right?
I'm really
so,
removed.
Like, yes. So sometimes it's harder because when you turn around and you look to like talk to someone quickly,
I know.
When you're that far away, it's like it could be in a different room.
I know. It's nice because I've gotten to know Casey really well.
Yeah.
But aside from her, there's like I'm just surrounded by men.
Yep.
Which, you know how it goes.
Welcome. Yeah.
I know. So I started the episode off by talking a little bit about my like career journey and how I got like landed at Barstool. And I find that people are so interested by it. And you're one of like the first women to work here. So I want to hear a little bit about your experience with school and then like making the transition to Barstool.
Yeah.
Because I find it fascinating.
Yeah. So mine's a little funky. I started working here in like February of 2017. I started as an intern, was working for Smitty.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I'm a Philly sports gal, so I followed Smitty and all of his stuff. So I ended up working for Smitty, and they were doing like a morning show at the time. It was called Drive Time. It was him, Riggs, like I meshed with that group and started kind of doing stuff with them, which was a lot of fun. But I was in school at Marymount Manhattan, which is in the city on the Upper East Side. It was the second school I was at. I started college at Georgetown. I was there for 2 years, left, took some time away from school. It was more of a, I'm really doing so terribly in school and my mental health is absolutely atrocious. And like I was like depressed my freshman year of college.
Why? Okay. Because I talk about not being a good student.
Yeah.
And I think
no, it was like you can't stay here, bad student.
Like so like I'm just curious, why were you such a bad student, and were you always a bad student?
No. I mean I got into Georgetown.
Yeah, Georgetown's
like I was
amazing.
I was a really good student. But it wasn't even more, it was less about the school and more about like the problems I was going through
Where
personally.
you were.
Yes.
Yeah, in your life. Yeah.
Adjusting to college was really hard for me. All my best friends now are from Georgetown. However, like my first year, I really struggled. I had a roommate that, I didn't really like, and she was always gone and I was always alone. And I totally fell into the, wow, everybody else on social media looks like they're having the best time ever. All my friends love college so much. Why don't I love it here as much as everybody else does? Yeah. And in my brain, like I always wanted to do something in media, broadcast journalism, something in that world. Growing up, I wanted to be like Erin Andrews. I still do, but that's like I was like, no, that's the job I want. So knowing that, I applied to tons of broadcast journalism schools across the country, like all the Syracuse, Penn State, all of those schools. But I come from a long line of Georgetown alumni. My parents met there. My grandpa went there. My aunts.
Wow.
I'm the first grandkid. So when I got in, it was like, you're not going to go? Like, so.
Yeah, it's a pressure.
Yes. And it was funny because I was so adamant about like, well, I don't know. I might not go. I don't know. And then when the time came, I was like, well, no, I'm obviously going to go. Mm-hmm. So there was that aspect, and then kind of just like the pressures of like how I was such a good student. Everyone always expected me to do well. Why am I not doing well now? And then instead of being able to ask for help, I spiraled. I was like, so I can't get myself out of this. And then it reached the point where I was like, my family, we sat down, we were like, this is not the right place for you. You got to come home. So I went home. I stayed home for a couple of years. I took a bunch of classes like around the New Jersey area to see what I potentially would want into college, because then I was like, I don't even really know what I want. So took some classes at Rutgers, Seton Hall. Like I bounced around.
I have a question about that period because I totally get what you're saying, where you're like looking on social media and everyone's like at pep rallies and like enjoying their time, and you're like, wow, I'm not having as much fun as these people. I think I even had a hard time freshman year, first semester, same thing, difficult roommate situation, kind of was like, do I transfer? Do I not? But did it make you feel, I'm curious, because I feel like then moving home, I would almost feel even more jealous that my friends then were doing these things.
It was awful. Oh my, so it was hard. It's hard because you move home and then you're like, well, now I'm the failure who moved home. And you're like, is everyone judging me? Is everyone behind closed doors being like, did you hear that she left school? And
like she didn't do well.
Yeah. And we're from like kind of similar areas in New Jersey, and people talk, and that's like so 100% I had all those problems and all those anxiety issues. I went to therapy while I was home, like the entire time. I found a great therapist who I loved, and I went to her once a week, like when I was home. And it also kind of got to the point where it was like, you just don't really have a choice. Like you kind of have to go home. This is clearly not working, and I know it's going to suck that you need to go home, but hopefully in the long run it's the best thing for you. I then ultimately decided I wanted to be in Manhattan. I was like, well, now I'm at the age, like my friends are graduating,
moving into the city. Yeah.
Like I would love to finish school in Manhattan and try and get internships around the city. I feel like that'll hopefully give me a little bit of a catch up time in the employment world.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, maybe I'll get some job experience. I'll finish school. It is what it is. Then, February 2017, I'm still in school. That's when I started here interning.
So how did you get the internship here?
Smitty posted on Twitter that he was looking for an intern in Manhattan. It's really funny now because it's just, I feel bad. Like the job fell into my lap and it was like, there was not really any competition for it. Because it was right when Barstool moved to New York. Now, when kids are like, how do I get an internship? How do I do this? I'm like, I wish I could help. Like, I wish I had better advice. Like, because it's so hard now. When I did it, like, Smitty was like, great. He said I was one of the only people who actually sent him like a real email with the resume instead of like an email being like, hey, fuck you, Smitty, hire me. Like, so he emailed me back and was like, come in at 9 a.m. whatever day it was. We'll do drive time. You can sit and watch us and then we'll talk. He said that he had told like 3 other kids the same thing, like, hey, come at 9 a.m., whatever. No one else showed up at 9 a.m. except for me.
What? That's wild to me.
So like I walked in. I was like the only one. I sat with Smitty. We talked. We chatted. And he was like, great, you're hired. And I started literally that day. I didn't go home. That was like my first day. And that was it.
That's okay. I love it because, well, first of all, how many DMs do you get people being like, how do I work at Barstool? Could I be your intern? Could I be your personal assistant?
Yeah.
Because I have been getting them crazy.
We get it a lot. And we've always gotten a lot of girls that have wanted to intern for Chicks in the Office.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us because early on, Rhea and I were told like, green light, you guys can hire an intern. We said, okay, great. We kind of did the process ourselves. And in reality, if we were hiring an intern, the intern's really working for Noah. Like, it's not, Noah's our producer.
Yeah.
Noah's the one that needs all the help, really. It's less on us and more on him. But Rhea and I kind of like took over the process. And the first girl we hired, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. She was here for like 3 days. And we had to be like, we're so sorry. Like, this isn't going to work. Like, we gave her access to the accounts. And she was, enhancing her own brand while using Chicks in the Office, like behind the scenes, like and we were floored. Like, we took her to a couple interviews and obviously this was not pandemic time, so like everyone's a person, and we're like, oh, can you like take a story or whatever? She's like filming herself to like put on the story. And
no. This actually gives me cringe.
We were like, oh my. And Rhea and I sat down, we were like, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, we had to get Erica involved. Like, we had to be like, this is gonna be a problem. So now Noah really handles that. Anytime, it's funny because girls do ask us all the time. We're like, look, any intern that we hire really is working for Noah. So we kind of tell Noah that like he can hire who he wants and go through that process. And we've found some great girls that are, here now that Noah has found. So now when I see it, I'm like, you know what?
Not for me.
I don't have that job. That's not my job description.
Well, I always say to people, I'm like, I'm not the hiring manager. I can't just hire an assistant. Like, who do you think I am?
Right. It's so hard because people are used to in early Barstool times where, no joke, in our old office, kids would show up like every week, just going up the elevator, opening the door, and being like, Dave, give me a job. Like, not like they would find out the address, they'd walk in, try and get a job. We didn't have HR. We didn't have anything. Like, we have a couple, I always get asked more about the business side openings, like, because they're listed on LinkedIn and they look like they're real life positions and they're good jobs. And I have friends in the city who be like, oh, I have blank friend applying for the marketing, whatever they do upstairs, sales job.
We have no idea what they do upstairs.
Sales job. And I'm like, I don't really know who's even hiring for that. And then I found out that all goes through HR now. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that we didn't used to have that. Like, so now, that's their job. I'm like, see, but it's nice because I'm like, now we're feeling a little more professional. When someone says it to me, I'm like, oh, I will forward your email to HR.
My people.
Like, before I used to be like, I don't know who I even send this to. It's funny. I'm like, I'm moving right now. And so, proof of employment and here, what's your supervisor's phone number? And I'm like,
Who's my supervisor?
It's Dave, technically, but I'm not giving you Dave's phone number to be like, hi, Dave Portnoy. Like,
I know.
Do you think Francesca Mariano is equipped to live in this building? Like, no. I will literally label someone else my supervisor.
He's technically my boss too, and I'm like,
yeah, he's technically all of our bosses in content.
Like, direct report. You know what I mean?
Yes. Right.
Which
he
is funny.
Technically, all of our like direct report would be to Dave.
Yeah.
And so when these are the moments when you're filling out some kind of application or whatever, even whatever it is, and they're like name of employer, and it's just like, I'm not writing Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, like you're not calling him. Please.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not putting his phone number down on this piece of paper.
Even when I was like I was just almost going to say, even when I was applying for the job, I did not apply for a job. But when I was talking to them about working here, my direct contact was Dave because he's the one I pitched. And then he was the one I was emailing. And then he put me in touch with Erica, who's the CEO, for those of you that don't know. So I was just talking to like the head honchos the whole time throughout the process. So I'm like, I don't even...
Right. You didn't have to climb the ladder to even get to
I was
Dave.
directly in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't... When people would be like, oh, well, who are you... People here when I started were like, well, who are you working with? Who did you get the job with? I was like, Dave.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I know. Well, it's funny because in content it's very different because people can get noticed on social media and then it goes up the chain. Like Gaz always is looking at people and sending people or seeing people and showing them to Erica or Dave and bringing them in, So there's so many different routes when it comes to getting involved in the content side. If you already have a podcast and you pitch your podcast you already have and things like that. But no, Rhea and I were very lucky, like I said, that we came in when we did because it was so early on that it was a lot easier to
it's just different.
Establish ourselves here. Yeah.
Sometimes it's, but like not, and that's not to discredit though, the fact that you were like applying and you showed up and you like those things matter. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was talking about in the earlier portion of the podcast because someone asked me like, do connections help? And I'm like, they do, but you help yourself. Like you make the connection. You follow someone on Twitter. You see that they post something. If you're not a self-starter, it doesn't matter what connection you have. You're not going to get the job.
So you'll laugh at this because I'm sure you've either heard or been there or whatever. The fall, I guess it was actually only like maybe a couple weeks beforehand, before I applied, was like January-ish, so football season. And me and my friends would go to Sidebar on Sunday and watch all the games. And one weekend, Smitty and Nate were there. And I knew who they were, followed them, like went up, introduced myself, was like, love you guys, love what you do, like whatever. And so when the Smitty's tweet came out, like I'm looking for an intern, I was like in my email, P.S. like I met you guys at Sidebar last like 2 weeks ago. Like if you don't remember, like I said hi, I said I love the Eagles, like whatever. And then it was funny because then after I was hired, when Nate was in the office, Nate was like, how did you get here?
Good to see you.
He was like, yeah, I mean, so you just got a job from going to Sidebar. I was like, yeah, I did. Pretty impressive.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I love when you recognize someone in an environment where you're like, I actually had a really weird thing like that where I was at an influencer event and this girl had like cool shoes on and I was like, oh, I like your shoes. We start talking a little bit. The next day I started a new PR job and I'm in the new hire orientation and it's me and her. Oh. And I was like, you're the girl from Wednesday
with good shoes.
I was like, what? Like sometimes that stuff blows your mind because I had no idea who this girl was. And now we're sitting together. It was just so weird. Okay. Another question for you that I think is interesting is what's it like being a woman in sports? Because you have Chicks in the Office, which is super heavy on pop culture, but then you also have your podcast with Casey that focuses on football, the Dime Package, right? I don't even know because I don't listen to sports.
Nope, it's totally fine. This was, so like I said before, right? My dream as a kid was like, I want to be Erin Andrews. Yeah. And when Erin Andrews started hosting Dancing with the Stars, I was like, could she be any more perfect? Like,
she's so dynamic.
That's all I want to do, host Dancing with the Stars and also be like on the sidelines of the games on Sunday. So I've always wanted to be in the sports world. Football has been such a massive part of my life. and my family's life. Like I wrote my college essay on being an Eagles fan and like how that shapes my relationship with my dad and all these things. So I have always been really passionate about football, and that path never really was there for me when I came here. It was like Rhea and I connected so well, and it was like, this is perfect. And I've also love pop culture, obsessed. So I was like, this is great. Like I will do this. I'll try and see like what sports stuff I can do. Chicks in the Office blew up. So it was like, that's totally the main focus. Casey had started working here, and I think we both had like a let's not jump on each other kind of situation. Like she was establishing her own thing, college football, doing everything with Brandon, like doing some really cool stuff. And, you know, hosting these live shows and doing all these awesome things. And then the beginning of this summer, or the end of this summer, because really it was right before football season in 2020, Casey and I went and grabbed a glass of wine, and we were like, we should really be doing something.
Yeah, like why aren't we working together?
Why aren't we doing some kind of football-oriented show? It doesn't exist here. You know, we were told all summer, like, there's a big demand for female content right now. Like, what do you guys want to do? And we're like, this is it. This is what we want to do. So we put together the podcast. We've been doing it all football season. We still do it once a week now in the off season. And then after the draft, we'll take a little bit of break and come back for next season. But it's so much fun. It's so much fun because having a podcast, number one, is just fantastic because there's all these thoughts and feelings that I have about football and the games and the players and whatnot that I have kept suppressed, but like where I don't have, you know, my girlfriends watch, they love it, we're great, but like this is a perfect spot for me and Casey to just like let it fly and say how we're feeling and talk about, and not only talk about, you know, what's going on the field, but like the fun off the field stuff, who players are dating and what's going on, the drama, the tweets, the like things like that. That is another element to football that's really fun. So
that's so cool. Yeah. So is it mainly women or men that listen, or both?
That's a great question. I don't really know.
I'm so fascinated by like women that seek out that type of content, because that's something that you as a consumer would probably be looking for.
Definitely. I think, you know, if I had to guess, I would think it's more like split than it would be female dominated, just because from who I interact with through the show and on Twitter, and who I can see is like listening or tweeting questions and things like that, I've always felt like it's a good mix.
That's really cool.
So that, it's awesome.
That's amazing. I think it's not easy being a female in sports. And funny enough for me, so I used to work in sports a little bit. So when I first started working with like celebrity talent at my second job, my boss at the time worked with tons of rappers and athletes. So she like was really plugged into like the athletes, and I kind of had to get up to speed and like learn what the hell was going on. And I was always like a sports fan in college, but not like so much, just enough to get by, enough to know a little bit. And then all of a sudden I was working with like Russell Westbrook, and he was someone that I really worked with, but mostly because we helped him launch a collection with Barney's, like fashion. Because he's really into that stuff. So it was always just interesting because like I was kind of in that world, and I actually really liked it. And for a while there, I started pursuing jobs that were in like athlete management and talent, because I loved working with athletes. I felt like it was just, I don't know, it's cool. They're really structured people. There's like a lot of opportunity. And then it kind of just like fell by the wayside. So it's like full circle now that I'm like working at a sports company, not talking about sports, but still kind of like now have my finger on the pulse a little bit more. Right. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Not that I know what's going
involved.
on. Wait, also, you won a freaking Bitcoin last night.
Part of one.
Still.
Possibly.
That's amazing.
Yes. Possibly. Every March Madness, we always do some kind of in office competition like this. It used to be Bud Light. Now it's not. And so, but the prize used to be going to Vegas with Dave, like a big trip to. Yeah, except every year everyone would be like, God, I really hope we don't win. Like,
Yeah, you're like nervous.
yeah. I mean, for so many of the guys, I'm sure like a
Yeah.
weekend with Dave in Vegas is amazing.
Yeah.
For Rhea and I, we're like,
Yeah.
you can have fun in Vegas. And
Go get
that's,
it. Yeah.
And that, you know, that's kind of just like a trip you don't want to be on with your boss. So
So true.
it was just so funny that they obviously changed it this year. It's presented by Blockfolio. And the grand prize is 1 Bitcoin that's going to be split between any team that makes it to the Sweet 16. Rhea and I initially picked VCU, but they couldn't play their game because of COVID. They pulled
That
out of their game.
sucks.
And so Rhea like went on out on a limb and texted Dave and was like, hey, so VCU didn't play. Rhea, Fran and I really wanted to be involved, and we never got a chance to like tweet about any game. Could we have another team? Because Tommy and Hubs had acquired 3 other teams.
Oh yeah, because they had so many. Yeah.
Because they did so well that Dave moved some of the other teams to Tommy and Hubs. And so he was like, yeah, you can have Oral Roberts. We were like, okay, great. Dave, I don't think realized that Tommy and Hubs actually picked Oral Roberts.
That was their pick.
Yes. Like, they also acquired Wisconsin and Oregon State, but they didn't pick Wisconsin or Oregon State. Those were given to them.
Oh.
So Dave, instead of moving the team, either of the teams that was
Yeah.
given,
Just
they
gave
took the team that Tommy and Hubs picked. So obviously Tommy and Hubs were not that happy, but they also had Oregon State, and Oregon State won. So they still won everything. Everybody's happy. But yeah, as of right now, the Bitcoin is being split like a lot of ways.
Oh, okay.
Like 8 right now, I think it could end up being like 8 to 10 ways.
Oh, okay. So my
Yes.
team lost, and
Yeah.
I was
None of us are going home with like 60K.
Oh man, I'm like, so my team, I was like tweeting, trying to keep up with it, and like they were like kind of, had Eastern Washington,
Yep.
and they were like kind of doing well, and then
Yeah.
like, it was pretty even the whole time,
Yeah,
and then I
yeah.
was like, oh damn.
Yep. No, I know. Rhea and I were shocked last night watching the game together. We were like, damn, I can't
Watching
believe
it
this. This was
transpire, I was
yes,
like,
it's
wow.
oh my God, I can't believe Dave gave us this team. Tommy and Hubs are going to kill us. Like,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get into the Ask Alyssa segment. People write in and ask me for advice. I only have 2 questions today, but I thought that we could
Let's do
give
it.
some advice. So this person said, my fiance is leaving on deployment to Kuwait. Seeing him over FaceTime is wonderful, but gets monotonous. And we feel like we have the same conversation after a few months. Do you have any good ideas for Zoom date nights to keep the spark in our relationship outside of FaceTime sex? Because we're already doing that.
yeah. Oh man. You know, that's very hard because it's just a level of relationship that I have never had. Like, you're engaged. Congratulations. But,
Seriously.
yes, I had one relationship that I did long distance. Well, you know, I was home from college.
Yeah.
This is my college boyfriend, and he was still at Georgetown. So, and it wasn't that far, like New Jersey to DC, to hop on the train. But no, it does get tedious.
Yeah, because I had me too, when I
Yeah.
was in college.
Yeah.
I was still with my high school boyfriend,
yep.
and he was in college, and we
Yep.
were about 5.5 hours apart drive-wise. And I get this because I feel like that's kind of what ended our relationship ultimately. I felt like same thing. You become like pen pals and friends,
Totally.
but the spark
Become best friends, but the sexual part of it is kind of lost.
It's kind of lost. And I felt that way too, because I felt like we were just like, hey, how's your day? Good. How's you?
Yep.
And then like I personally felt like on my end, I tried to keep it alive by like writing him notes or doing this or doing that. But I think the biggest breakdown, as I've reflected on this as I was older, is that we had different love languages.
Yeah.
So my love language is quality time and physical touch.
Yeah.
What are the 2 freaking things you don't have when you're in a long distance relationship?
Yep, for sure.
So I feel like you have to, maybe you guys could take the love languages quiz and find out what each other's like love languages. And if his is like gifts or whatever it is, then you could try to do things for each other that make you feel fulfilled.
Yeah. And I know this isn't like super sexy, and obviously he's very far away, so this could take a lot of time. But I love a good like handwritten love letter. Like, and I know that's very old school, and you guys are very far apart. Like, you know, it could take a while for the letters to get back and forth. But sometimes when you're just like constantly on your phone, you lose a lot of the connection, and you're just like sending these quick text messages or quick, like, it just loses a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
When you like sit down and open a letter and it's multiple pages and you're like really expressing yourself and talking about your relationship and the love you have and how there's the qualities that you like in each other. It is always a good reminder that you're like, wow, I really, really love this person, you know?
I 100% agree. Yeah. And I feel like anything like that you could do that makes someone feel special or that isn't, like Fran said, like, you're not like, hey, did you have lunch today?
Yeah.
What did you eat? It's like, oh, it's so boring.
Totally. And sometimes putting pen to paper, like writing down how you're feeling to this person will also make you kind of think like, am I getting everything out of this relationship that I want?
Ooh, or maybe you could play like 21 questions or like a game. Like I know there's like card games for dating where you could do like a Zoom date and then ask each other like, what's the craziest dream you have?
Right. There's like date night games like that I'm sure are fun.
Yeah, like things to spark new conversation that's not just like the everyday same shit.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. After finding out my job was permanently work from home, I decided to take a leap of faith and move to a city where I genuinely know no one. I'm so excited for my move, but I'm nervous about meeting new people. What advice do you have for me?
Oh, man. First of all, congratulations, because I think a lot of people wanted to do this and then got scared and didn't do it.
Yeah, they don't have the balls.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, great balls. Congrats. Like, good job.
Congrats on the balls.
Yes. And it's so hard because it's you can't give the normal answers. It's not like you can't be going to a lot of events and things like that because they're just not happening as much. But sometimes I feel like there has to be someone that you know somehow. Maybe not a direct friend, but like maybe your friend from growing up in high school happens to have a cousin that lives in this city that you could maybe connect with and see if you
that's a good idea.
Have like any kind of friendship, things like that. Because you don't really want it to just go off like dating. You don't really want to go and then be like, well, I'm on the dating app, so I'm meeting people that way. But
yeah, because then it's just like guys and not girlfriends.
Yeah.
I think,
or you go on a date and he brings you out and you're like, can I meet all of your female friends?
Could it be a group date?
Yeah.
I also think another good suggestion is there's Facebook groups for podcasts.
Right.
So like I'm sure Chicks in the Office has one. My podcast has a Facebook group. If you could write in those groups maybe
right.
and find like-minded people because you probably have similar interests if you're consuming the same type of like media. So I think that Facebook groups, and I also just think don't underestimate social media. Like people meet online all the time. Half of my TikTok friends we haven't met in real life, but we text and we talk because we've met through TikTok. You know what I mean? Like,
look, I'm like a Jonas Brothers stan. Yeah. And like I have met all these girls now, but like I have my like Jonas friends.
Exactly.
But we all met solely because we love the Jonas Brothers.
Wait, have you ever connected with Ashley I over this?
I have. She's been on our show before, and we have talked about it. And she was like just as nuts as
because she was hardcore.
But she was like, because she was older, she like could get away with a lot more shit than I could when the Jonas Brothers were like at the peak early on. Because it was like my parents are picking me up and taking me to concerts. Like Ashley's like sneaking in. She's got like her friends. She's got She's like I was not old enough to be making those kinds of moves. I wish I was.
Wait, I'm dying at that. So yeah, exactly though. Like you just don't know. There's like a niche for everything.
Definitely.
So connect with people on social media. It's a pandemic. We're meeting men on social media and dating them that way. You can meet a friend.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you only have a few more minutes, but I do a spill the tea segment, and I just want to get your thoughts on a few things. Did you watch last week's Summer House?
Yes.
Okay, so there's just so many thoughts that I have, and I want to preface it by saying that Hannah's my friend and I love her.
Also love Hannah.
Love.
Yeah.
But the whole dad thing, Han.
Yeah, it's been tough because all season I think she's been getting a lot of shit, right?
Yeah.
And so like I have my group chat of all my girlfriends. We all watch Summer House. Everyone loves it. And the last few weeks, my friends have been like, I'm sorry, I can't with Hannah anymore. Like they were, and like, I defend really annoyed.
Her to the end. Yeah.
I'm like, guys, we've all been there when we've liked someone that hasn't liked us back and let us on, like trying to. Like,
Me
trying
too.
To be like, look, sometimes you act erratic when the boy you like doesn't like you back, and you're in this house and you're stuck and whatever. And they were like, we don't care, Fran. She's annoying us. I'm like,
I get so defensive of people I know.
So true. And so Rhea and I were having the same conversation too, because after last week we were like, she's making it tough for us.
I think people need to not underestimate the pressure of being in a house for 6 weeks with people and you can't leave.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're under stress, and I loved that she owned
especially
up to it.
a man like Luke, who has had some of the craziest emotional manipulation I have seen. Right?
And
like,
that's the other thing. I feel like I know some of the behind the scenes of, like, in terms of, and she says this publicly, about how much they were talking and how much they were dating. And I'm like, the show isn't doing a good job at, like, showing just how serious what their situationship was.
No, the show really makes it seem like she is pining over a guy that has no interest in her at all.
And that is not the case.
And that's just not how it went down.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, he was obsessed with her.
Yeah.
And so, whatever. So I'm watching Summer House. I think it's, like, so good this season.
I've been loving it too. Yeah,
absolutely
really
loving it.
I love Sierra.
Like,
Sierra. There's been some iffy characters who have come in and out of different seasons where it's like that didn't mesh well. Love Sierra.
You know what it is? She's just, like, cool.
Yep.
And she also is confident.
Yeah.
Because, like, the whole thing with Luke, a guy that looks like that, many girls would fold at the chance for him to give them attention just because he's hot and you get, like, a little, like, dickmatized.
No, and I think you really have to be confident to step into a reality show like that also, where you're not just, like, clearly sucking up to everyone to try and get in their good graces and make friends and stay on the show. Like, she's very much like, no, like, let's chill. Like, we'll be friends if we will, and I'm gonna do my own thing.
She's
and
so
it works.
cool. Like,
it works.
She's calm, cool, collected, mature, and she's like 24.
Yeah.
And I just think it was actually crazy when Lindsay had mentioned their age difference.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, they're 10 years apart. Like, that's a big difference to be like living together.
Definitely.
And you don't even realize the age difference because they seem.
And it does seem like maybe Sierra makes some more mature decisions than Lindsay does
sometimes.
Like,
you don't even notice the difference.
Yeah, no, not at all. You would never know that if you didn't know. Like, if you were just watching, you would never guess it's that much of a difference. And I think
Luke's like 33, 36. Yeah. Like, I think Luke is the oldest.
Yeah.
Well,
Kyle.
Yeah, true.
Kyle's pushing 40.
Wow, that's crazy because he looks young, Kyle.
Oh, that's how Kyle gets away with it, because he does look like he's still 28 years old. He's
love
not,
it. It's so
but he does.
apeshit.
He looks like it.
It's so apeshit and it's so good. Okay, I wish I had more time with you, but I don't. I'll finish spilling the tea on my own. But I just wanted to get your opinion on that because this episode was so good that I was like, I need to talk about Summer House. Where could everyone follow you, listen to your podcasts, all the stuff that you do?
Okay. On Instagram, I'm at Francesca Mariano. Chicks in the Office is at Chicks in the Office. Dime Package as well. Same on Instagram. And on Twitter, Barstool Fran. Chicks in the Office, except it's Chicks in the Off. Twitter has a limit.
I know. I had to do that too. It was so annoying.
I tried. Well, when I really went into I changed my Instagram to my full name and made it Francesca Mariano. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that on Twitter too. That's nice. I went to try and change it. Francesca Marianne. The O. I can't. The one letter off. The O. That's all I needed.
On Twitter, my podcast is T Publicity insteed of with.
Yeah.
Because I can't put the with.
No, you can't. So it's Chicks in the Off. Dime Package is the same as well. And then we're on podcasts are on all platforms where you consume your podcasts.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alyssa. I appreciate it. This was fun. I'm sorry I gotta go, but if you ever want me back, I'm available.
You'll be back. Now that I'm alone again, I am going to continue to spill the tea because there are a few more things that I want to talk about. And I'm not completely done with Summer House. I just think that this season is super good. I think I liked that Hannah wound up taking accountability at the end of the episode and just being like, I'm not proud of certain things that I've done. I think that's all you could ask for in someone. Like, I'm down for anyone making mistakes as long as you could just own it. So I really liked that she did that. I am interested to see more of like the Paige and Carl situation play out because I feel like teasers show like her breaking up with Perry and then maybe getting together. So I'm interested for some more storylines to kind of develop right now beyond just the Kyle and Hannah drama. Also, I watched the Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiere and I love them. so much, and I was crying the first 2 minutes of the premiere.
Oh my God, I haven't watched it yet.
Literally crying, like just like the opening of them being like, "This is our final season." I'm like sobbing.
Oh yeah, I cried at like just the trailer.
Oh, the
that
whole
they put
thing.
out. It's so dramatic, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's really over."
It really made me emotional, and I think it's so cute to see Kim like studying so hard for her test, because I feel like she always gets such a bad rap, but at the end of the day she's a really smart girl with really intelligent parents, and like I just felt proud. I'm like, she's gonna be a lawyer.
Yeah, I know that's the craziest thing.
And then Chloe obviously going through all of these fertility things. It was so interesting to me because part of me was like, I don't want to like offend anyone, so I'm trying to think how to say this because I don't mean it offensively at all, but she like basically was like, I'm not sleeping with Tristan, so I'm going to go through all of these intense treatments to get IVF. And in my head I was kind of like, just sleep with the guy.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to have to put your body through all of this. But then we come to find out that it's not just as easy as like getting IVF. Like she's having actual issues, and then I'm like, okay, maybe that's why conceiving naturally isn't even an option.
Yeah.
So at first I was like confused. I'm like, just have sex. You've
Do
done
it.
it before.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have this kid.
Right.
But now I'm like, okay, maybe even with trying it the natural way, it wouldn't be successful.
Yeah.
So now she's exploring other options, and I think it's so cool that she's like talking about that on TV and being open about it, because I think it's something that is taboo, and like a lot of women don't always talk about the struggles that they go through.
Yeah, for sure.
And then just to wrap up the Spill the Tea segment, Kylie Jenner is under fire because she asked people to what's it called? To donate.
GoFundMe. Yeah.
Yeah, donate to a GoFundMe for like a friend of hers or something. It was like I don't know, like
I think
makeup
someone
artist.
who worked for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what the title was, but yeah.
The person needed like $60,000 for treatment, and Kylie donated $5,000 and then asked her followers to donate the rest. And then everyone is bashing her, being like, you're a billionaire and you're trying to get us to donate.
Yeah.
And like, it just wasn't a good look.
No. Yeah.
Like, I think it was so generous that she donated $5,000. Like,
yes.
Great. Amazing. Right. But you don't publicize it.
That's,
because it's, it was a really bad look that she was asking other people to when she has so much money.
Right. I know. It's hard too, because I feel like it's like a double-edged sword. Like if she didn't do that and then people found out that she wasn't publicly asking people to donate, then people might get mad. It's like there was really no win in the situation unless she just fully donated all the money. But obviously that's her decision and her choice. So I understand what people are saying, but it's like either way, she's gonna like be under fire.
I know. I do agree. I think it was one of those things where she was probably just trying to show support by sharing it.
Yeah, I don't think she meant any ill will to do it. Like she was just trying to help.
And the message was just completely like people just couldn't see past the fact that she was telling people to donate when we'll never have as much money as she
right yeah, exactly, which I feel like at this point she'll just do it because she's getting so much hate, and it'll come out that she just ended up donating.
But also it's like, if you do have $1 billion, like I feel like $5,000 is nothing to donate. And I don't know her relationship with this person. Like it literally might have been someone she met once.
True. Yeah.
And she went out of her way to do this, and like that was such a big favor on her end.
Right. Yeah,
so, like,
that's true.
I don't know the situation.
Yeah, which no one does, so nobody should really like have a say in it. But
it just, all I'm gonna say was, and I don't think it was ill-intended, I just think it was a bad look.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It definitely should have been gone about a different way.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the tea for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are new here, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. I love reading your written reviews. They put a smile on my face, sometimes tears in my eyes. Don't forget to shop my merch. Everything is linked in my bio. So if you go to my Instagram bio, my TikTok bio, I have like every links for my podcast, for my YouTube. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube too, because I am dropping a vlog this week. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you guys. No, just keep following me, keep staying updated, keep DMing me, keep writing in for Ask Alyssa. I love when you guys write in questions. And I will talk to you guys next Tuesday.